This Thursday, August 21st, there's lots of ground to cover in today's edition of CNN Student News. I'm your host, Carl Azus. Let's get right to what's first up. Major tragedy in Spain leads off our rundown of the headlines. Shortly after takeoff, a passenger jet went down in flames Wednesday, killing at least 153 people. Officials say a group of survivors was hospitalized as of last night. The weather was hot and clear when Spanair Flight 5022 took off in Madrid. It was headed to the Canary Islands, part of Spain that's actually located off the west coast of Africa. A local newspaper reported that the takeoff had been an hour late. We're not sure yet why. One survivor said she heard a loud explosion as the plane took off and that it dropped altitude little by little. It didn't crash straight down. This was Spain's deadliest air disaster in 20 years. Across the Atlantic, Floridians are still weathering a tropical storm named Faye. This thing just won't let up. Literally sat over Cape Canaveral yesterday, dumping water everywhere. Hundreds of homes were flooded in Faye's wake, as you see in these pictures from Port St. Lucie. Officials say at least one person has died. The National Hurricane Center said rainfall could top out at 30 inches, and Faye could actually make its fourth landfall in Florida today, this time targeting the Daytona Beach area. To politics now. Barack Obama is campaigning in Virginia today. That's the home state of one of several potential vice presidential picks, according to CNN's political team. Obama is expected to choose his running mate sometime this week, maybe as soon as today. And in a 21st century twist, he's going to announce his selection via text message. The Democratic convention starts next week in Denver, Colorado. On the Republican side, as John McCain campaigned in New Mexico, there is news about who will address the Grand Old Party's convention in September. Among the dignitaries set to speak as McCain officially becomes the nominee of the Republican Party, President George Bush. He'll speak on the first night of the convention in St. Paul, Minnesota. Former presidential candidate Rudy Giuliani will make the keynote speech, keynote address being one that lays down the tone for the entire convention. Also expected to address the Republican convention, former Democratic vice presidential candidate and current independent Senator Joe Lieberman. An Ohio congresswoman died yesterday after she suffered what doctors say was a serious aneurysm. Representative Stephanie Tubbs Jones was driving in her home district of Cleveland when this aneurysm struck. It's a swelling of a blood vessel in her brain. The 58-year-old congresswoman was the first black female representative from Ohio. She was scheduled to attend the Democratic National Convention as a superdelegate. And another record to tell you about from Beijing. You've heard us talk a lot about American swimmer Michael Phelps. On land, it's all about Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt, who has the coolest name ever for a runner. Bolt bolted across 200 meters in 19.30 seconds, beating Michael Johnson's previous records by 0.02 of a second. Bolt's the first man ever to break the 100-meter and 200-meter world records in the same Olympics. His average speed in the 200, about 23 miles per hour. With school back in session, many of you seniors are probably working on college applications. One thing a lot of schools consider is your high school course load. Well, a federal judge recently ruled that universities in California can deny some high school credits based on what's in the students' textbooks. Schools are fighting back. Cara Finstrom takes us to court.
But that's not really, if you are a Christian, remember now you have your testimony.
Calvary Chapel Christian School in Southern California.
Are there parents that can abuse their authority?
What's taught to the 1,300 students here
In schools, we have rules and regulations.
is now at the center of a culture war over religion and education.
Our teaching reflects that God exists, whereas the UC wants courses to be taught from a perspective that there is no God.
The University of California is denying credit for some Calvary Chapel courses, saying some textbooks instruct that the Bible is an unerring source, ignore important topics in science and history, and do not teach critical thinking. The Association of Christian Schools sued. This week, a federal judge ruled UC has the right to refuse credits, and now the Christian schools are appealing.
It could have potentially a chilling effect on religious schools and the kinds of courses that they offer students.
UC school officials declined an interview, but released a statement saying there is essentially no difference between the course approval rate for religious and secular schools. And the university system says it does not consider whether courses have religious content, but whether they provide adequate instruction. At the crux of the debate, whether this school's Christian viewpoint distorts certain curriculum or adds to it.
When you look at our science curriculums, we're given every theory from intelligent design to evolution, whereas it's more narrowed in a public school system. So I think we're given a broader spectrum.
Senior Danielle Hatt hopes to attend a UC school. Right now, the few classes being refused credits shouldn't hold her back. The fear of Christian school leaders, more classes could be refused credit, handicapping students in Christian schools and Christian education.
I think that we are moving towards a more secular time, and we're going to fight for the rights to continue to teach from a Christian viewpoint.
It's a fight students at private religious schools will be watching closely, especially those with their sights set on campuses like UCLA. Attorneys say the appeals could drag on for years. Cara Finstrom for CNN, Los Angeles.
Is this legit? The legal drinking age in all 50 states is 21 years of age. This is true. The National Minimum Drinking Age Act passed in 1984 effectively established 21 as the minimum legal drinking age.
Now, since that law was passed, teen drinking is down 25% among high school seniors. That's according to a government site on the issue. But there's a push to lower the drinking age back down again, and it's getting support from what you might think is an unlikely group. Carol Costello examines the debate. Teachers, you may want to preview this story before showing it to your class.
The quiet move to lower the drinking age just got a lot louder. More than 100 university presidents, including those at Duke, Johns Hopkins, and Ohio State, have signed the Amethyst Initiative, urging 21 is not working because it fosters a culture of dangerous clandestine binge drinking conducted off campus.
The conclusion of these presidents is that it's important to find a way to take the underground drinking that is forced by the 21-year-old drinking age, find a way to bring that back above ground, to confront it, and to talk to our students about drinking responsibly.
Johns Hopkins says that's difficult to do when you're acting as the enforcer, something Hopkins hasn't shied away from. 350 of its 4,000 students faced disciplinary charges last year for underage drinking. But Mothers Against Drunk Driving says the Amethyst Initiative is irresponsible. 1/3 of accidents involving teenagers are alcohol-related. MAD adds these college presidents are looking for an easy way out of an inconvenient problem.
As the mother of a high school senior, it alarms me personally as well, because I would not want my daughter to even contemplate going to a college where a university president has signed on to this initiative.
The university presidents say they're not looking for an easy way out, but taking on a difficult fight against a culture that celebrates secretive underage drinking. Pictures of underage drunken students partying away from the prying eyes of adults litter Facebook. It begs the question, what's better, drinking legally on campus at 18 or off campus illegally?
I think it would be a good idea. I think it's better that young people, if they're allowed to drink in, say, a bar or an open area, they'll be more controlled.
I think a lot of students wouldn't be urged to actually drink as much if the drinking age was lower.
Others clearly don't agree, and that's fine with those who've signed the Amethyst Initiative. If you've got a better idea, they say, they'd like to hear it.
And just so you know, 34% of colleges ban alcohol altogether on campus, and 43% of universities ban drinking in college residence halls. But the problem still persists. Carol Costello, CNN, Washington.
We're going to bet that those last couple stories will have you talking after the show. They had us talking all day. How about you continue that conversation on our blog? What do you think about lowering the drinking age to 18? Good idea? Bad idea? How about the California court's ruling on some religious school courses? If you have an opinion, let us know about it at cnnstudentnews.com. It is no opinion of mine that we are out of time. So with that fact, we'll see you here tomorrow.